Hello everybody. So today I want to provide a fundamental analysis video of HIMS because the price action has been very disappointing, but we need to realize that HIMS is a long-term company. In fact, I will conclude this video talking about the long-term guidance of HIMS, which is heavily sandbagged at revenue of more of $6.5 billion. I think it's going to be much more than that. This is sandbagged. I want to talk about this company as a takeover, as an Amazon in disguise, as a business that nobody sees coming, as a Netflix of sort that Blockbuster does not see coming. This is how I see HIMS. As a reminder, I've been in this stock since the $5 range. Much of my bag was bought between $5 and $8, $5 and $9. That's where I bought most of my bags. I've been in this stock for a long time. And from day one, I understood this stock fundamental thesis, which is this is a 21st century company. This is a company disrupting an old industry, traditional healthcare. This industry relies on moats. This industry relies on gatekeepers that charge you $200 for a prescription. This industry relies on barriers to entry, right? You gotta set up big labs, big hospitals, build big medical office buildings in an era where you don't need this anymore because you can do everything remotely with AI. TradFi is an industry that's all about rent seeking, right? You gotta charge more every time, and people don't have a choice than to take care of their health. So Trad Health has just charged more year after year, and because of the way the insurance industry is set up, and the medical loss ratio and the max that an insurance company can make, the only way for the revenue of an insurance company to grow is to ever charge more year after year. Trad Health is a very 20th century sector that has seen next to no innovation. And this is why you have a newcomer like HIMS, who's literally an earthquake in an industry. They are bringing enormous innovation, applying the principles from 0 to 1, which, make no mistake, 0 to 1 is the most important investing book for the 21st century. You know, PayPal, Palantir, Tesla, look at the PayPal mafia. Peter Thiel founded Palantir, right? Peter Thiel also founded PayPal. Peter Thiel gives you the playbook on how to win in the 21st century. And of course, Amazon, which was part of the PayPal mafia, not Amazon, Tesla, which was part of the PayPal mafia. You know, how many trillion-dollar companies does Tesla have? Well, I can think of 2 right now, but there likely will be more than 2. XAI will likely be also a trillion-dollar company. All followers of the Peter Thiel 0 to 1 principles. What is this principle? This principle of 0 to 1 is that to win in the 20th century, you need to create the best and the cheapest product. Your product needs to be the best and the cheapest. This is something that was not available before. Without technology, without dematerialization, none of this was possible. Nowadays, in the 21st century, you can be the best and you can be the cheapest. And this is why billionaires and the common man alike use Gmail and Google Chrome. Billionaires and the common man alike use iPhones and Android. Billionaires and the common man alike use Spotify and Netflix. Billionaires, just like the common person, although there is still some resistance in that, they drive Model Ys. Billionaires drive Model Ys. I listen to a lot of podcasts with billionaires. They don't even buy the Model X anymore. They just buy the Model Y because it's the best car for the money, right? As Saylor would say, you know, I cover MicroStrategy a lot on this channel. As Saylor, you say, they stumble into the perfect product. 10% yield, risk-free, a bank account that pays 10%. 5 times better than anything else, and backed by Bitcoin, right? And that's the whole idea. People are going to flock to that product because it's entirely better, right? Netflix disrupted linear TV. Netflix disrupted cable. How did Netflix disrupt cable? You know, Netflix. You gotta realize you had most Americans in 2015 were paying between $150 and $200 a month for cable. Netflix arrives, starts charging $15 a month, 10x cheaper. And then next thing you know, now Netflix is building an amusement park in Dallas and is just, for all intents and purposes, the culture of shows and the culture of TV was essentially taken over by Netflix, right? Spotify. How did Spotify disrupt music, right? We went from Apple resting on its laurels, charging $1 a song, just following the principles of an old industry, and then Spotify arrives and says, for $10 a month, I'm going to give you 100 million songs. 6 orders of magnitude cheaper. This is the story of HIMS. HIMS is trying to provide a product that is orders of magnitude better for cheaper, or 1 order of magnitude better for 10 times cheaper, if you want to phrase it like that. And HIMS has a bunch of 0 to 1 innovations. Things people didn't really think about before, but that actually could come in handy and useful. And that's the story of Tesla, right? Nobody really thought about full self-driving. Nobody really thought they wanted a car that drives itself. Nobody really thought they wanted to have, a bulletproof truck. But you use 0 to 1 principles to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna make it bulletproof, because why not? Why not, right? I'm gonna allow it to charge your house for 5 days, because why not? You add all of the features. The customer doesn't necessarily know the features that they want. The key is that you gotta make the product much better, and you also gotta make it cheaper. And that's 0 to 1. You gotta find ways to have a product so good that it becomes a natural monopoly, just like Spotify or Netflix are natural monopolies. Just like iPhones and Android are natural monopolies. You gotta find something that makes it so good that people keep coming back. It's business in the 21st century is an alliance between the customer and the company. Think about how Gungo, any Tesla owner, is about Tesla stock. They're kind of one and the same. They love the car, they love the company. There's a pure alignment with the stakeholders. And I can tell you, the people who follow HIMS love HIMS. I love HIMS very much. I think it's an amazing company. I love it a lot. So anyways, let's go ahead and let's talk about the 0 to 1 principles and what HIMS does. So I'm going to spend a little focus on that. Of course, I'm talking about labs. They just launched labs. Labs is about the disruption of physicals, because most people go to physicals to get their blood samples drawn out and to get tested. Not going to talk much about labs, but labs are a big deal. And for the cost of a physical, they're essentially disrupting the labs industry. That's what HIMS launched a few weeks ago, and the stock dumped. Nobody really noticed. But this acquisition kind of went undercover. So we knew about the Tribe acquisition, which was a lancet, and it's supposed to be less pain or less painful. This time they acquired a micro needling modern phlebotomy tool, and so this little device here, and you just press the button, and when you press the button, you don't feel anything, but blood comes into the vial, and you just take it off after a few minutes, and you have a full vial. And it's apparent. I mean, they can't say it's painless for everybody, but apparently it's painless for like 99.9% of people, because the device just barely grazes the tip of the skin. So essentially, HIMS bought this company, probably for very cheap, because this was a very, very small company. Pain-free needles. Why are pain-free needles are a 0 to 1 innovation? That's 100% a 0 to 1 innovation. It's the same as a car that drives itself, or a car that like costs 20x cheaper to fuel, for in the case of Tesla. Because of course people don't think you can have a pain-free needle, but apparently you can have a pain-free needle. And apparently, according to this company, 30% of Americans don't want to get a medical treatment because they don't want to get their blood drawn. I also think this is a major, the painful needles are actually probably a major impediment to actually collecting blood. So I didn't know about this. What I knew about, though, is that 15% of the population, about 15% of the people, pass out when they see blood. 15% of people pass out when they see blood. And that's a medical condition called vasovagal syncope. And again, you could solve this very, very easily with this device. All you have to do is get a blurry vial. You just make a blurry vial, and then all of a sudden you just have a little suction cup. You click on the button, the blood drops, I mean, this is a major, major innovation, and it's painless. And of course, I get my labs done every year like most people. It's generally fine because my veins are visible. But I know that if you have harder to see veins, which some people have, and you happen to have a phlebotomist who's new to the job, they can they can dip that needle into you like 3 or 4 times. Because not all phlebotomists have the same level of training. You're relying on potential human error, right? I mean, not all. I mean, you may be lucky and find the most experienced one, but not all of them are always experienced. So this is, to me, an example of a 0-to-1 product. Now they own this. Where are people going to get their labs? Where are the 15% of people or 30% of people who don't like that? Are they going to go to LabCorp, or are they going to be like, oh well, with HIMS I have a pain-free needle, I can just get my labs there? And then think about the GLP-1. What if this technology, along with trial acquisition, what if it can be, kind of reversed and reapplied, and then all of a sudden, this could be a peptide in there. This could be a GLP-1, and you just click a button, and instead of having injection, you just click a button, and you have the GLP-1 injected inside of you, right? That could be, or the NAD, because they're getting into longevity now. This is an example of a 0-to-1 innovation, a pain-free needle. Something that's not supposed to exist, but it does exist, and HIMS bought it. Okay, moving on to 0-to-1 innovations. So this is a core 0-to-1 innovation. I'm putting it all together. This one is about patient adherence, it's about customization, it's about effectiveness, and it's about the AI recommending the problem. So most medical conditions, before you get into the really, really bad stuff, like later in life, in your 70s and your 80s, and you have to go for tried health. Before that, most medical issues, like you have early onset heart disease or things like that, most medical issues, sometimes pre-diabetes, most medical issues are treated by pills. Now, turns out humans, especially like men in their 40s and their 50s, lots of men like that, but humans are really bad at remembering to take their pills. They skip them. Patient adherence is a big issue in pharmacy. Actually, I was doing some research on CRISPR the other day. Listen to the whole conference call. CRISPR is trying to go into DNA editing, and they want to cancel out type 2 diabetes. They want to cancel out different forms of heart disease because they're like, people forget to take the pills. So the whole reason for CRISPR to get insurance companies to actually pay for these $500,000 treatment is like, people don't take the pills. So since people don't take the pills, we need to entirely get rid of their, type 2 diabetes. So that's what CRISPR is working on. Fascinating company nonetheless, but good luck getting insurance paying for that. That's these companies don't have the business model innovation that HIMS has. We'll get to that in a second. How does HIMS deal with patient adherence? Well, to have patient adherence, you need to have a very effective drug. It needs to be effective. To be effective, it probably needs to be customized, and it probably needs to be AI recommended, because the AI will know better because of the data. I'll get to the data science in a second. And it probably needs to be customized because you don't want to have side effects, and a lot of pills have side effects, right? Like take metformin, for example. Metformin stands to cause, anyways, I'm not going to go into the details, but metformin has some inconvenience, right? And so maybe there's like just the right amount of metformin that you need for weight loss, and not too much of it, right? Maybe there's just the right amount, and the AI can pinpoint exactly the right amount for you. So how does HIMS ensure patient adherence, pill effectiveness? Well, first of all, one pill to treat one or more conditions. This is the big journey that HIMS is on. One pill, and you can treat multiple things with a single pill. It's much easier for a patient to remember. It's their one pill, it's customized to them, and it has a bunch of active compounds. Why can they do that? In a traditional medication, have you ever wondered why most medications are white? It's simple, because it's like rice powder. Most medications are actually a rice-based excipient, or like sometimes they have, it's called an excipient. Anyways, it's a powder, and like most of what you're having in that pill is a rice powder. It's an empty calorie mixed with an active compound. So actually, you can have a single pill, and you can mix many different drugs into one pill. Okay, that's point number one. Then, how do you ensure people take their pills? Well, you use Amazon's technique here. You become customer-centric. You create a feel-good marketing. The patient, the customer, and I think we should call them customers. The customer needs, because being a customer is a good thing, because that means you're going to have satisfaction. The customer needs to want the pill. It needs to be, the pill needs to taste good. A gummy, for example, is a great format. It tastes good. Naturally, they need to want that pill. They need to not feel stigma associated with the pill. And then lastly, you probably need AI to customize your pill exactly for what you need, because it goes beyond what a doctor can probably do and what a pharmacist can probably do. And that's why compounding has not gone a lot of places, because it requires way more work for a human to customize something. But for a machine, it's very easy. And with customization, you get lower side effects, greater effectiveness. Anyways, here's another thing. Recommender system. So how does it work at HIMS? So they have MedMatch, right? They launched MedMatch now. So essentially the doctors on the platform, they review your info, and then they say, oh, do I approve of MedMatch, or do I not approve of MedMatch? And MedMatch does it proposes the pills. MedMatch is like, this is what I think is the best. This is what I think is the second best. This is what I think is the third best. The role of the doctor is to make sure that the AI is not hallucinating. And the role of the doctor, of course, is legal compliance. But I believe there will be a time where the doctor will be out of the loop. There will be a time. It's probably sooner than later. It depends how the lobby of trad health fights. It depends on that. But sooner or later, there will be a time where it will just be the AI doing this. And it will just be an AI recommender system. And it's like right now, of course, some people may be uncomfortable having AI doing recommendations, but I can tell you recommender systems are very, very, very powerful. Would you trust an AI to customize a drug for you and pick a pill for you? And you know what? I absolutely will. I absolutely would do that, because the AI is going to just run the GPUs, run the recommender system machine, run the algo on 2.5 million people, on a very, very large data set of people, with maybe 300 observations per people. Up 2.5 million people in a row, 300 for observation. Imagine doing machine learning on this, right? You're going to have to use something like a data click or a snowflake. Imagine doing machine learning on this. It's absolutely amazing. No doctor can see that. I mean, in fact, how many patients is the average doctor going to see in their life? 10,000 patients? Something like that? You may take the most experienced doctor. They're never going to be a match for an AI. And we know, like, we've had so many examples for years, like Target, Amazon, Walmart. We know they've had to intervene so many times because they offer a woman baby diapers. And the woman doesn't understand. And so the AI knows that she's pregnant before she even knows she's pregnant. The AI knows, because the AI analyzes all of the data. It's on your phone. The data is all there. And so these companies got into trouble offering baby products and baby formula because the AI knew that she was pregnant and she didn't know she was pregnant. This is likely how it's going to work for most conditions. That's why it's so important, I believe, to upload all of your data, all of your labs in a single place, and that place is going to keep up with the best AI. And HIMS is that company. HIMS is a San Francisco, Silicon Valley, AI-driven company. They're going to keep up with the best AI. Also, think about the next iteration of that. Of course, the next iteration of that is digital twins. The AI will create a digital twin of you, probably somewhere at HIMS, and then HIMS will be able to simulate how you react to drug XYZ, right? And maybe the AI does a Monte Carlo simulation, 10,000 different simulations to figure out how your body reacts to that perfect combination of pill that's going to address your menopause or your andropause or your low T or your ED, or eventually much bigger diseases like diabetes. I think diabetes is coming up for HIMS. I think that's going to be a big deal. Right, physicals are coming up. I don't know how they're going to do that, but the labs is pretty much 80% of the physical is the lab, so we are pretty much always there. Like pairing with all of these apps, pairing with your Apple Watch, pairing with your Samsung Watch, pairing with your Oura Ring, pairing with your Whoop bracelet. That's all coming too. So to me, this company is extremely AI ready. And of course, you're going to provide so much better insight than TradHealth. I don't know how TradHealth is going to compete. Anyways, let's look really briefly about the feel-good aspect. So for patient adherence, and you can see they're going all in on this. And so they have different drugs, right? Okay, well, somebody may well, we know, for example, erectile dysfunction and hair loss are usually correlated. So somebody may need to deal both with hair loss, dermatology, hair loss in the field of dermatology, and then ED. And so you have a single pill that treats both, right? We know ED and heart health is also related. So you could have a statin and ED, both in one pill. And you could have all three of them together. Why not? And then the AI just looks at interactions and makes sure there's no bad interactions. But it's the AI that handles that. Like a doctor, most doctors in a physical wouldn't even want to touch more than 3 or 4 issues. They don't have the time. So hopefully that makes sense. AI design drugs. And then, of course, how do you make sure people come back? Well, you almost present the product like jewelry. You make people feel good. This was their hard mints. That was a successful product. Compare hard mints, and they had like a really cool-looking mints. It just looked like a TikTok. Compare this to the competition, which are these pills which do not make the customer feel good and have stigma, and the same is true for metformin. You go buy metformin at the pharmacy or whatever, it makes you feel like you're ill or something, right? Look at these gummies. Gummies are probably a better form of excipient than pills for a lot of people. A lot of people prefer gummies, so maybe they get their heart health medication in a gummy. There's so many different ways that there's so many directions that these products are going to take, and of course with their automated warehouse, with their new peptide facility, with everything that they're doing, one customer, one pill, one customer, multiple issues, one pill. And then you're like, do you prefer a gummy or do you prefer a pill? Do you want 2 smaller pills or do you want a bigger pill? I cannot imagine how far this company is going to go. This is their weight loss product, right? It's 4-in-1. So this is the oral weight loss products, metformin-based, bupropion. There's a few other things. There's a B12 in there. All in a single pill, right? For people who don't want injections. You can have a pill. So do you want an injection or do you want a pill? Do you want a pain-free injection? Which I think is probably where they're going to be headed with these 2 acquisitions, the YourBio and the Tribe acquisition. I'm interested, of course, for blood samples, but I'm interested also for injection. Could this work in reverse? I'm so excited about the optionality of this company. Anyways, let's move on. There's a third 0-to-1 business innovation for HIMS. And it's about how we pay. How do we pay for what we get? Okay, just like Spotify changed the business model of music. Young folks in the 90s, in the 80s, they used to spend $300 a month on different CDs and albums and music, and Spotify was like, okay, no, it's 100 million songs, $10 a month. Well, they're doing kind of a similar thing with the business model of doctors. So the whole point is, why would we pay for the doctor visit? There is no need to pay for the doctor visit. The doctor is the knowledge. But the knowledge is near free these days with AI. In fact, GrokDoc. Try GrokDoc. Try GrokDoc. Try GrokDoc and see how good it is. It is very, very, very good. And I've asked doctors about this. I have many friends that are doctors, and I can tell you it is excellent. GrokDoc. Knowledge is near free these days. Most of the job of a modern-day doctor is legal and supervision. Making sure the AI doesn't hallucinate, making sure the patient is not going to pass out or something. And much of their role is writing notes, writing long, lengthy notes, which HIMS, by the way, does automatically for them in their EMR system. But writing notes is so important, and they write these notes for legal protection, of course, but they also write these notes so that the insurance company on the back end doesn't ding them and say, oh yeah, we're not covering that because we don't like what you wrote in the note. So it's mostly an administrative job these days. And actually I would argue a lot of patients show up, they already know what they got. They already know the issue. You're a woman, you try to go for birth control, you likely know which one you want, right? I mean, you're a diabetic, you likely know which diabetes drug works better for you. You likely know all of this. Like, you go for weight loss, you likely know which GLP-1 you prefer. You've read about liraglutide, you've read about semaglutide, you've read about tirzepatide, and you've decided you want semaglutide. You probably know all of that. So in that case, kind of like a real estate agent, right? In a real estate agent, you already know which house you want to bid on. So these knowledge jobs don't really have a role anymore. And we know that for sure from Elon Musk. I mean, Elon Musk said it before. Elon Musk saw his presentation in front of neurosurgeons talking about how, quite simply, the human hand cannot place sensors in the brain because the brain moves too quickly and it is too small and too narrow and the human hand can't handle it. Only a robot can handle it. And this is the same for making a customized drug. How could a pharmacy make a customized drug? How could a pharmacist be expected to analyze 2.5 million customers and look at interactions? They're not computer scientists. Anyways, even computer scientists don't really know how AI comes up with such good recommendations because it's a black box. We don't really know how AI can predict you're pregnant so much earlier than you, right? But they can. So anyways, we're creating this super intelligence, and to me it's very obvious that this is going to be near free, so we probably shouldn't be paying for it. And that's the innovation of HIMS. HIMS is future ready. They are waiving the gatekeeping fee to getting treatment. There is a gatekeeping fee to getting treated for anything, and that is having to go see the doctor to get the famous or infamous prescription. You have to go see the doctor. It's a legal requirement. You have to go see the doctor to go get the prescription. At some point, I fundamentally believe that an AI at some point will be able to give that prescription. But right now, HIMS is not charging for that. Right now, if you go to see HIMS and you say, I want to have a GLP-1 and you have a BMI of 18, yeah, HIMS is not going to give you a GLP-1. You're too skinny. Sorry. But they're not going to have you pay. They're not going to have you pay for that. They're not going to have you waste time to go see the doctor either. They're just going to tell you, sorry, we can't help you out. So you don't pay if you don't qualify for the drug. If you don't qualify for the treatment, you don't pay. This is very disruptive. Most trad health doesn't understand how disruptive this is. This is disruptive because, okay, physicals typically tend to be covered, although not always. But more often than not, rent-seeking in trad health has created the ping-pong issue. The ping-pong issue, which I keep pounding the table on, this is a big issue. So doctors, of course, they need to spend a lot of time writing notes. So they will say something like, I can only address this issue on this visit. And you'll have to book another visit if I want to address another issue. Maybe with another doctor. Ping-pong. You take the patient, you send them from Dr. A to Dr. B. Referring them to the specialist. That's ping-pong, right? A classic is you go see your family doctor, and I'm taking HIMS traditional issue of ED. The family doctor maybe doesn't want to treat your ED because, I don't know, you have a complex case, or maybe they just outright don't want to do it. They'll refer you. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes you may be referred to the wrong person. Like in kidney care, it happens that you refer to the wrong doctor. Same for low T or ED. Same for, there's endocrinologist or urologist. Doctors sometimes don't refer you to the right doctor. And so they move you from specialist to specialist to specialist, right? And so that's $200, $400, $400. Let's assume you want to go get your labs. So your physical's covered by insurance. But then what if you have the doctor who calls you after they see lab and you need to come back to discuss your labs? Very common thing, right? You need to come back to discuss your labs. That's a very common thing too. Boom, $200, $200. So trad health has created a rent-seeking thing in doing ping pong with the patient and sending the ping pong ball from specialist to the lab to another specialist back to the family doctor. And this is what you avoid entirely with the business of the business model innovation of, if we don't give you a service, we don't charge. We don't give you a service, we don't charge. That's a business model innovation that's very revolutionary. And if I was trad health, I would be quite worried about this. I definitely would be worried about this. And then lastly, well, there's one quick one, of course. Zero physical presence is obviously an innovation. You would be surprised by how many companies don't get this, right? I mean, you still have Chase Bank who's building branches everywhere. Like they're building a branch. Like you still have companies who just hang on to their old ways and don't dematerialize, and they're like, oh, I need to expand my network of stores. I need to go buy more stores. But so I'm not going to discuss this very long. But of course, the original 0 to 1 move of a lot of these companies, Spotify, you move from a physical CD to something dematerialized. Netflix, you move some to streaming from buildings, right? I mean, Netflix originally used the CD form of decentralization, but Netflix versus Blockbuster is you had a network of thousands of stores, and you go from fully dematerialized, right? Doctors need to move that way, but they're not doing that, right? They're still building very large medical office buildings, even though we know most care happens via prescribing a pill, but you're still building a very giant medical office building. You need medical office for some procedures that actually require touch from the doctor, right? But like surgery. But otherwise, you don't do that. Otherwise, you can do so much of it remote, and most of these medical office buildings actually have a large amount of the floor dedicated also to labs, right? LabCorp, these big companies, Quest Diagnostics, thousands of doors. Same thing for something that is clearly going to be dematerialized, just like Netflix dematerialized the DVDs, use DVDs instead of using Blockbuster. HIMS might actually disrupt the lab business, where they're just using mailback sample, mailback blood draw, as opposed to like having you drive somewhere. So zero physical presence, that's a big deal. Of course, Amazon is doing that a little bit too. It's not entirely not entirely 100% HIMS, but you'd be surprised on how companies like CVS, Walgreens with Village MD, like they're not catching on to that for some reason. So, anyways, that's an innovation. That's the original 0 to 1 innovation for a lot of businesses. Okay, let's finish with the most important innovation, which is the toughest one to get for traditional health. No insurance accepted. HIMS wants nothing to do with insurance. Why do they want nothing to do with insurance? Well, there's multiple reasons as to why they want nothing to do with insurance. First of all, bill pay, back-end integration, that takes a lot of time, that takes a lot of money, and that's something that HIMS never wanted to do. If you follow LifeMD, you know how much of a hard time LifeMD is having getting insurance to pay for their GLP-1s. They haven't launched menopause yet, probably because of insurance integration. It's very tough to try to go for insurance. HIMS, right off the bat, said, it's pointless. Why would we go for insurance? And this is from a few conference calls ago. I think it was Yemi who said that, talking about how the average American spends about $200 a month in copay. $200 a month in copay. Well, and maybe it's more than 4 or 5 issues, but for sure right now, with $200 a month, for sure right now, if you go on HIMS.com, you can get treated for 5 issues. For sure. Like you can have their least expensive treatment starts at $54 for ED or something like that. But then you can do bundles, and you can do like for $69, you can have multiple things treated. So for sure right now, you can, you can get treated a lot of stuff than a 55-year-old in bad health would need to be treated for less than $200 right now with HIMS. This is crazy. With the doctor visit included. Using AI to help you with the better drug, with the drug that makes you feel good, that is branded. So right off the bat, you don't need insurance because insurance have copays. So right off the bat, you don't need it. That's point number 1. Point number 2, tons of plans do not cover what a doc may deem necessary. And this is the story of insurance. For example, if you want to go get certain labs, you oftentimes need to say that you have a family history of this or that, right? They're not going to give you, more than 200 labs. I mean, the labs offering of HIMS is crazy. All of the things that they check on you at HIMS is crazy for $199. That would cost you thousands and thousands of dollars for traditional health to get everything tested. And traditional health will say, well, you don't need to test for actually all of this stuff. Well, yeah, you know why they say you don't need to test for all of this stuff? Because they don't take your 200 gigabytes of data, longitudinal, loaded up into a black box AI that's going to find out what's going on with you. You want to, my take on this is you want to measure as much as possible, because in a few years when we get digital twins of ourselves and we can test all sorts of treatments on ourselves, you will need to have this data collecting. Data is the fuel of modern intelligence. Artificial intelligence feeds on data. If you want to have a doctor who is an expert in you, you need to answer as many questions as possible, give it as much data as possible, and then it will make the best recommendation. And doctors are like, you don't have family history, so insurance not going to pay, and so they don't prescribe it to you. Right? Listen to Peter Diamandis. Peter Diamandis is very, very big on that, talking about how, like for example, there are some cancers, there are some stuff that could be detected very easy with a simple test, but doctors don't prescribe the test. That's it. Like they just don't, because X, Y, Z reason. Prevention is very important, and that's what's going to help. Also, there's stuff that you may want covered where I just say good luck. You want to get ED covered? Most plans don't cover it. You want to get weight loss covered? Most plans don't cover it. How about low T? Most plans don't cover it. How about menopause? Maybe some, not so sure. Longevity? Definitely not. Peptides? Definitely not. So most plans don't cover a lot of that stuff. So if medicine is moving into a direction where what is needed is actually sick care, and people actually want health care and not sick care, the point is, we don't have traditional health care. We have sick care. We don't have traditional health insurance. We have sick insurance. That's another way to think about HIMS, by the way. Anyways, that's the second point. First of all, you have your copays. It's going to be cheaper to do everything out of pocket. Second of all, the insurance may not cover what you deem necessary. Third of all, and crucially important for HIMS, I've listened to a lot of doctors. Doctors often struggle getting paid by insurance companies. Just because somebody uses insurance doesn't guarantee that you as a doctor are actually going to get payment, right? And that's why a lot of people get a ding on their credit score, medical debt, all that sort of stuff, because they don't check their mail, because they go to the doctor, they think their insurance cover it. 8 weeks later, the doctor finds out your insurance didn't cover it. And so they send you a bill, and you miss the bill. So I could talk also about clear pricing. In the modern day, you need to have clear pricing. Right? HIMS gives you clear pricing. Traditional health doesn't give you clear pricing. In the modern day, you need to have clear pricing. So anyways, I was listening to this podcast. Up to 40% of the yearly revenue of a doctor is in limbo, is at risk, is up for negotiation with insurance companies who negotiate very tough and very hard to try to pay less for the service that doctors provide. So actually not using insurance is an enormous competitive advantage. The last competitive advantage for HIMS not using insurance is, of course, velocity. And we see this with LifeMD, who accepts insurance. LifeMD is moving very slow. HIMS is moving very fast. Why are they moving very fast? Because they don't accept insurance. So they don't have to move at the pace of the payer. The pace of the commercial payer, who is most likely a very bloated company with people who don't work at night, like AI, with people a bunch of days off, paid time off, all of that sort of stuff that you don't have an issue when you use AI diagnosis, AI doctor, AI everything. So anyways, this is the conclusion of this video. My friends, I sleep very well at night with HIMS at 35. So this stock has been a roller coaster for over 3 years for me now, about 3 years. This stock is so undervalued, it's not even funny. You remember a prediction that they had for 2025 up until like Feb 26 for full year 2025. You remember how low that prediction was. From memory, I think the prediction was something like 1.2 or 1.1 billion they had predicted in revenue. And of course, we are twice that, roughly twice that right now. We're going to be more than twice that. So the question you have to ask yourself is, their 2030 revenue, are they sandbagging? I think they're sandbagging. What if they do 12 billion? Remember, it's exponential at this point. What if they do 12 billion in 2030? What if they double their guidance again? I mean, this is ridiculous. This company is $8 billion. EV over GP over RG is 0.1. Rule of 60 is already achieved. They're printing cash. They're buying back their stock. I love this company very, very much, and it will remain a top 3 stocks. It will remain a cornerstone in my portfolio along with Tesla and strategy. So anyways, kind of a different video today. I hope you learned a few things about this company and why I love it so much. This was not investment advice. This is not financial advice. This is only entertainment. I'm hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.